Hi friends, it's Kayla Moran and welcome back to the Let's Get Candid podcast. How's everybody doing today? Happy Thursday, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever day or time it is that you're listening. So happy to be back on the mic with you guys. And I have a really cool episode today for you. And I'm really excited to dive into my guest. But before I do, I just wanted to say I'm going to bring back solo episodes because there's quite a bit going on that I want to talk to you guys about. And I've done some question boxes on Instagram stories, and I just feel really called to share a couple of things that I've learned since being in business and running my own businesses, and the learning curve and the emotional aspect of it. And I feel like I don't quite know where to share that information with you guys other than here on the podcast, because do people really read blogs anymore? I don't know, but I just want to share them with you guys, and I don't want to make like TikToks and reels and videos, and I feel like no one's really going to listen to that. So I thought I would do it on here, and I don't know if people are going to listen to it on here either. To be honest, I'm really not sure if people actually still listen to my podcast or care, but I enjoy it. I love having it. I love having these conversations, and they truly bring joy to my week every single week. And I'm just going to keep doing them because I love them. But yeah, it's been an interesting couple of weeks. I'm doing the best I've ever been on a personal level. I think on a mental health level, I've just been overwhelmed because work has picked up. There's a lot going on, and I've learned quite a bit about myself and about the type of attorney that I want to be and the type of businesswoman that I want to be and what it takes to run a business. And I want to share those lessons with you guys. So let me know if that's something that you're interested in. It'll probably come in the next couple of weeks, but I thought I would let you guys know ahead of time. And I want to do a quick suck and sweet of the week. So my suck of the week is that I just feel a little bit overwhelmed and burnt out emotionally of just bottling up how I'm feeling and feeling that I don't have a right to complain because I chose a career path that is non-traditional and a little bit harder at the beginning to, make sense of it and be able to handle everything. And so I always felt like I chose this and I really didn't have a right to complain, but I'm not happy and at work, and I'm struggling to handle my load and, make the most of it and still make time for myself and the things that I want to do. And my friend asked me if I have hobbies outside of social media, and to be honest, I really don't anymore, and I want to. So I've just been kind of going through it, trying to figure out where I'm at and what I want to do, where I can make changes to improve my life. And so I've just, I had a really long cry on Sunday. Me and my mom and my dad, we hashed things out, and we each got things off of our chest, and it felt really, really good, to release everything that I was holding on to. And I feel like I made a breakthrough in myself and my relationship with my parents as I enter this new phase, because I do live at home, but I'm 25 and I make my own money. I'm my own woman, so it's hard navigating that with Latin parents who don't believe in being friends with their children. They're still my parent. And, I'm like, I don't really need a parent anymore. I need a friend. And they don't believe in that. So our dynamic has been changing. And so it was good for us to kind of talk about all of that. So this week I've just been kind of going through it. But that's not really a suck. It's an important part of life. We go through ups and downs and phases. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. My sweet of the week is that this weather is incredible. I love just being able to sit outside and enjoy the sunshine and the fresh air. I know I've said that a lot the last couple of weeks, but truly when I feel just a tumultuous time in my head and my body, sitting outside and just enjoying the breeze really does make such a difference. And I have a couple of fun plans this week with friends and events, and just getting drinks and catching up and hanging out and having a good time. And I'm really excited. It feels good to have a social life and a full calendar again. And there's times where I'm so exhausted that I don't want to go out, but then I do because I have nothing else to do, and why not go? It might be exactly what I need, and it always is exactly what I need. So I'm really looking forward to spending some time with a few friends this weekend and, you know, starting the weekend off on a good note, because I feel like now that I've had this release, I just feel a lot more open and a lot more opportunities can come in. And I feel really, really good about that. And I feel excited for what's to come. And I'm excited to share it all with you guys. I feel like the last few episodes have been quite a bit of downers, and I promise you I'm doing okay, and I want to work on being more positive for you guys. So I'm really actually enjoying this introspective reflection time. It's the end of quarter one, beginning of quarter two, and I feel like having this little reflective period is very helpful for me. I like to, at this time of the year, like every quarter, kind of reevaluate what worked and what didn't work and what I want to take with me into the next quarter, and reset my intentions and reset my goals for the year, and kind of just plan out where I see myself going in the next 3 to 6 months. And, that's the best we can do, is just hope for the best and set intentions and set goals and work to achieve them. But then we got to pivot when we got to pivot, and that's okay too. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I hope you guys like this episode. Caro the tour guide is someone that I have been enjoying following for quite a while now. You guys know I'm born and raised in Miami, and sadly, I don't know a whole lot about Miami's history because we just don't really get taught that in school. And then I went away for college at 17, and I just moved back at 24. So I was home on break, and I would do like the hot new thing, but I really never dove into the history of Miami and why Miami is the way that it is, and the monuments and the historic theaters and the different buildings and the significance. And that's exactly what Caro does. She is a tour guide, and she takes locals and tourists alike around the city and introduces them to Miami and why Miami is so amazing and all the great things that make up the city, the history, the people, the culture, the food, and from transportation to, I don't even know, like she just does so many different things. It's so cool to watch, and I love that her and I have gotten closer and that we got to have this conversation and share it with you guys. And she talks all about how she got into being a tour guide to begin with. She's a really cool story. She went from, being in high school and not really knowing what she wanted to do and struggling to figure out what her life was going to look like in college and career, to building a business for herself. And making content is just a small part of it, but there's so much more that she can do. And I think it's really, really cool. She's someone really inspiring, so fun, great. Like, she's just such a vibe, so fun to watch and so fun to be around. She's like, infectious is the word that I was looking for. It's infectious. Like, you can't help but smile when you're with her. And this whole conversation, like, we get to some deeper topics, but we just had so much fun, and I hope you guys enjoy. So if you like this episode, please leave a rating and review. Please subscribe to the show, follow along, share with a friend, tag us as you're listening. Go check out Caro. Go let her know what you guys want to see next on her channel. Let me know what you want to see next on this podcast. And go, if you're in Miami, do one of her locals tours. There's one tomorrow night, or actually the night that this goes live. So on the first Thursday of every month, if you're in Miami. And I think you're going to love this episode, and you're going to love her, and I hope you guys enjoy. So thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Meet Caro. So Caro, what's something that people wouldn't know about you just from following you?
Ooh, that's a good one. Well, they wouldn't know that I used to be an avid violin player. I was a violinist all throughout middle school, loved it so much, and unfortunately, I had to stop in high school because I was in a really demanding magnet program that didn't allow me to take any extracurriculars unless they were like AP classes. So, honestly, actually, one of my biggest regrets in life, because now I still have my violins, and during the pandemic when like I had nothing to do, I took them out and I started playing again, and it was a lot of fun, but I was obviously incredibly, behind, and like the skills were no longer there. I had to relearn how to read notes, and it was like, dang, I loved playing the violin so much. So it does devastate me a little bit that I don't have that skill anymore, but it's also like a goal for me in the future to get back into it because I love music, and it's just one of my favorite creative outlets. So really nobody knows about that like at all unless you were with me in orchestra.
That's so cool. I feel the same way about dance. I was a dancer my whole life, and going into high school, I got into New World and into Coral Reef, like the two premier like art magnet schools in Miami, and I chose Coral Reef because they had a more academic focus, not just arts. And I knew that dancing professionally wasn't going to be like my career. I wanted to have some sort of academic background because I knew I wanted to go to college, and I was starting to realize like I wanted to be a lawyer. And but I gave it up. Like the last 2 years of high school, I only danced in high school. At school, like in the magnet program, I stopped going to a studio, and that's one of my biggest regrets. I wish, because I miss it so much. Like I'll dance around the living room. Like I want to go back into taking classes. I know I'm gonna be really rusty, and the kids now are so much more flexible than, I mean, I used to be, but now I'm not. And dance now has become like athletic and so much more intricate than when I was their age. So I want to get back into it, but I know it'll be rusty. But that's cool that you. What magnet program did you go to? That you
I
like
was
that
in
you.
the Cambridge magnet program in Braddock. So it
Yeah.
was like it wasn't really AP, it was ACE classes, and like the Cambridge University in the UK, they coordinated the entire curriculum, and it was really intense, really, really difficult. It took a lot out of me. And yeah, like the academic route is definitely very beneficial and I'm grateful for it. But now looking back, not that I'm not academic, like I can be and I have the potential to be very academic, but my calling is certainly to be in the creative route. And I do wish that I had seen that sooner, or that my parents saw that, because when you're young, you don't necessarily have control over your life, or at least I did not. It was whatever my parents said I was going to do. And I was like, okay. So I wish that they saw that potential in me more, and believed in me. And so I could have pursued that instead. Cause at the end of the day, I have gotten a lot of benefits from, being well educated and, having that background. But at the same time, I feel like it's also inhibited me because I'm not pursuing anything, let's say, academic based. I'm not going into corporate. I'm not, becoming a lawyer, a doctor. I'm not,
It's
you know,
overrated,
it's
to be
over. Yeah,
honest.
no, honestly,
To
to
be
be
completely
honest.
honest, I used to think that I wasn't creative. That's why I didn't think that I could have been a professional dancer commercially, not ballerina, but music videos and performing at concerts and things like that. I could have if I wanted to. I had the skills. I was really good. I just didn't apply myself. I didn't give it my all because I was the only one holding myself back, and I didn't think I was creative enough. I didn't think, like, I didn't have the artistry part. I didn't have the choreography part, which I knew was a necessary component. Like you have to be able to do both. And so I always thought like I'm a good dancer and I love to dance, but I'm not a creative. And
Yeah.
and I and it's funny because I did go the corporate route. I did go the grad school route and keep going, and I got my law degree, but while I was in law school, I realized like I miss the creative part. I miss the art part. Like dancing was my storytelling, and to some extent I was also a creative writer, and that's where the blogging came in, that I could share my thoughts and give advice, and that's how this all came about. But that was my outlet, my creative outlet, and I realized like I regretted it. I missed it so much. So yeah, there's a lot to be said for choosing the academic route, and I'm really grateful for it. I wouldn't be where I am today had I not done it. But the arts are so important, and I'm glad that there's this big push now to give kids art programs. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's always has been going on since we were little, but that
But now with social
realizing the
media,
importance of the arts because it's so much more accessible, and kids are seeing it online like, mommy, I want to do that. And I
make a name for yourself.
yeah,
And
yeah,
you're no
there's
longer.
more careers now in the arts if that's truly your calling. You don't have to go to school for something that you don't want to do, or stay in it, even if you go that route like I did, like, or you did too. So I want to talk about that. Like you did go to college and you got a nice job, but you realize like that wasn't your passion. How did you kind of get into how did you become Caro the tour guide? Take us back. Like, where did this all come from?
This dates back to 2016, 2015, 2016. I was 19 years old, going to Miami-Dade College to get my AA, and I was working in an office really close to the campus. But in this office, I was the only employee. So I basically managed the office, and my boss lived in Ecuador, so we only telecommunicated. I mean, if this were nowadays, I would be like, why the hell am I going into the office dressing up like, but back in those days, like there was no such thing as like it wasn't as commonplace as it is today to work from home, so that wasn't like even a thought in our head. But now that I think about it, I'm like, that was ridiculous. Like, why were they making me do that? Ridiculous. But but I mentioned that only because like I was completely alone all the time, all day, every day. Miami-Dade College is not exactly a hoorah college where you're like surrounded by spirited people who are so excited to be there. It's referred to as like the 13th grade, and that's kind of what it is. You take your I'm very grateful for it because the
You
basic
can
class,
get get an amazing
yeah, you can make the best
education
out of
at
it.
community college, 100%.
100%. I didn't graduate with any debt. I did my basic classes, those, the ones that really didn't matter. There, they were good, they were easy. I made some good friends, and got that part of my life over with. And then in FIU, it was more like the college experience, and I did a lot more there. And we'll get into that as well because that made a big difference. But while I was in Miami-Dade College and I was working in this office all by myself, it just really started to take a big toll on me emotionally and mentally because I was not interacting with anybody at all day after day after day, just by myself. And so at that point I knew that I needed to make a change immediately, and so I started brainstorming like what kind of job can I go look for that's going to allow me to be outdoors and that's going to allow me to talk to a lot of people. So I thought, oh, I want to be like a park ranger. So I applied for the park system. I thought that would be super cool. I'm like, with the ranger suit, honestly, that's still a plan B for me. If all else fails, I'm like, I would love to be a park ranger, down for it. So cute. But it's hard to be a park ranger. Actually, they don't just hire anybody. So I didn't end up getting a call back or hearing anything back from them. And so I continued looking, and I was going through Craigslist, and that's where back in those days, that's where I found all my jobs, like through Craigslist. And I found this ad, for being a tour guide. They said no experience needed. We'll train you. It's in South Beach. Become a bike tour guide. And I thought that sounds fun. Something outdoors, and a place where I'll get to meet people, and more importantly, since I'm studying business, this would help me with public speaking. Because I've always been someone who like looks for at least two reasons or at least two benefits from everything.
That's a good skill, like, or not skill, but like something to train yourself to do.
Yes, like I'm not going to go to a job just for the money. I need to at least be acquiring a skill. I need to at least be getting something else out of it other than the money. So I've always tried to look for two benefits in whatever it is that I do. And this comes down to like clothes, shoes, activities, I think about that. That's the way that I think about everything in my life. I'm like, it needs to have at least two really good benefits for me. So tour guiding was that. It was like, okay, I can make money, and then I also get to practice public speaking and interpersonal relationship skills, because at the end of the day, all these things are skills that everybody has the potential to learn, and it's not just something that I was innately God given. Some people it's a little more natural than others. It was a little bit more natural for me. I don't feel nervous in the spotlight. I've always, as a creative, and being in orchestra and drama, like I loved being in the spotlight, so that was not a problem for me. But let's say if it was something that scared me, that's still a skill that you can work on. So that's the two benefits that it offered me. And so I just, I decided to do it. And literally, as soon as I started to become trained to be a tour guide, and they gave me a tour guide manual, like of their specific tour and the information that they wanted us to tell, I was shadowing other tour guides' tours, and I just fell in love. I fell in love right away. It was literally love at first sight. I couldn't believe all the history that we had in Miami, and it just blew my mind. It shocked me. It shocked me that at 20 years old, I was actually learning this information despite having
Yeah.
lived here my entire life. I didn't know any of it. And now, like the city, I was working first in Miami Beach, in South Beach. So, and then at that point, South Beach became a completely different neighborhood for me. I thought, wow, like this is an amazing neighborhood that has overcome so many obstacles, that has gone through so many phases. I thought it was incredible, and it made me really excited to share that with people. So I started my journey there. I'll tell you about my first ever solo tour too, because that tour I felt like was such a high point. But 2 weeks into the job, I'm still training. They want me to like continue shadowing until they feel like I'm good, like, and that I feel comfortable enough to go do my own tour. But I'm there on call at the shop. It was a bike shop, a bike tour and bike rental shop. So I was just there, and the tour guide, like on call, he wasn't there at the time. And these four ladies walk in and they were like, "Oh, we'd like to do like a bike tour around South Beach." And the tour guide, like on call, he was not answering, or like he was busy, or whatever the reason was. But I was there. So they asked me, "Do you feel comfortable enough to go do this tour?" And immediately I was like, yes. Like after the second tour, I felt already ready. Because that's another thing about me, is that when I like something, I become obsessed with it.
Oh,
And
me
so
too.
as soon as I yeah, as soon as I learned as soon as I did my first tour, I was like, "Oh, this is amazing." And I started doing more research, and I started learning, and I really just like went right in. So by 2 weeks, I was like, "Oh, I am ready. Like let's freaking go." And it was such a fun tour. It was just us four, and we rode around South Beach. I was so excited to tell them everything, like to go and do it on my own. And I was just so psyched about it. They asked me if they could walk out to the beach. I was like, let's go, no problem. Like we went out to the beach, and generally I love showing people a good time too. Like there's something in me that loves to be of service to people in a way. I love to do that and to make people happy. So it just made me so happy to make them happy and to show them a good time, and I could see the smiles in their faces, and it made me so excited. And at the end of the tour, they were like, "That was amazing. How long have you been doing this?" And I was like, "Oh, this is my first tour." And they were like, "What?"
I mean, I'm even hearing you now, like, and I now knowing you in person, you're genuinely just like, you're very like infectious and like joyful and like happy. Like you want to, yeah, you want to entertain people, you want to give people a good time, and that's what a tour guide is all about. Like you need to genuinely like, otherwise you're just an encyclopedia. Like, and it's just like they could
Exactly.
look
Yeah.
that up online, or they could read like the
100%.
tourist guide. So like you want a tour guide that's entertaining and gonna show you around and like, oh, that's my favorite spot. Like that's not part of the tour, but like you should go check that out later. Like that's what you want.
You
So
wanted
yeah, and
inside yeah,
yeah,
there's
and that
definitely like
shows.
guidelines to being a great tour guide, and we can get into that because I definitely have like a criteria that I keep for myself, and that I believe would also make a great tour guide. And one of my goals in the future, in the very near future, is to create a sort of guild and a sort of accountability, or a sort of training for tour guides here in Miami, so that we can have more of that. Because yeah, you want someone who's like the inside person on the neighborhood, who genuinely loves it, and who's showing you around, who's it's a performance at the end of the day, like it really really is. And you want someone who's really who can perform for you, and it excites you to be there, and you're like, wow, like I'm so happy to be in this neighborhood. I wasn't before, but now I'm like, oh, so they were just shocked that it was my first ever tour. And then one by one, each of them pulled out $20. And at the end of the day, at the end of that tour, I made $80 in tips, and I was like, this is freaking great. I was like, oh hell yeah. So
It's
that was
awesome.
definitely like I started off on a high. I was like, that was so much fun. In 2 hours I made $80. I loved it. I had a great time. Apart from everything, I'm like, it was 2 hours of so much fun. So it was like I got money, and I also had a good time, and just meeting new people and getting to see other people's perspectives. It was great. So that's how that journey started. And I worked at that bike tour shop for a year. I worked there. It did not pay well by any means whatsoever. It was actually horrible pay. but I did it because it was my first experience doing that and I really loved it. In fact, my parents were begging me to quit because the tolls, gas,
Getting to the
and
beach is not cheap.
parking, it's not cheap to work there. And it really was taking a toll on me financially because I wasn't making enough money to like do everything, and it made no sense, and so at some point, I had to take a second job, and I was working then at night at this school in Miami Beach that is it's a language learning school, so, like, European parents would send their European kids to the US, and there was a school here in Miami, and then there they would learn English. So, I worked as an activity leader, and so I did tour guiding in the daytime and then as an activity leader in the nighttime, because it just really didn't pay well, like, at all, so I had to, like, you know, do even more. But I kept, and my parents were just confused. They were like, why are you doing this? They wanted me, to be the good little girl that they had always envisioned and to go work in an office and to, do corporate and go the safe route. And I mean, my parents have known me my entire life too. So it's like, why are you so shocked that I'm going to do what I want to do? I've always been like this. Like they always tell me that when I was a baby, I never let my mom feed me. I always said, "Jo, jo, jo," me in Spanish, be like, "Jo, jo, jo," and I would feed myself. I'd make a mess, but like I always wanted to do things on my own, and I was always kind of a rebel. And I say that very loosely because I was a dork. I was a nerd. By no means whatsoever was I like a rebel in the sense of like
But that
being,
is a rebel to them, and
but
it's
to
funny
them,
because no, I mean, same. Latin parents or something else, but it's funny because in my like, if you knew me in middle and high school, even early college, I was a completely like I was a shell of myself. I was not myself. But when I was little, I mean, mind you, I didn't speak English. I think once I started speaking English, I fell into the American culture and society like we all do, and like I tried so hard to fit in. I became someone who was always trying too hard to be like somebody else and someone that I wasn't to make people like me. But when I was little and I really only spoke Spanish, I was fearless. I would go up to everybody and I would talk to everybody and I could talk to a wall. And like I was una cotorra. I was a parrot. Like anything that someone said, I was like, like, and I was a little kid, like happy go lucky. Like I looked like Shirley Temple, like running around, and I was so excited to talk to everybody. And then little by little along the way, I just got so self conscious, and then puberty happens and all the things, but I wanted so badly to belong. And now coming, like realizing, looking back, like I never would have been the entrepreneur type. Everyone thought I was going to be the office kid. And, I was going to be a very serious corporate lawyer, blah, blah, blah. And then you look at me now and it's like, I'm kind of going back to who I used to be. I love to talk to everybody. I love networking. I love meeting people. I have a wealth of information and I'm curious about so many things. And like, it just makes sense that I would start a podcast. I want to use my skills as a lawyer to help people that do what I do. Like it just all makes so much sense. But like you look at me as a kid, it makes sense. You look at me like 10 years
now.
ago and it's like,
Yes.
what? Like that's not the same person.
Yes, like those high school, like teenage eras, those are like the ones where you're like, oh, where I feel like the fears of your parents are really projected on you and you really start to take them seriously. So you start to diminish your own true inner self. And unfortunately, some people never get out of that. And I feel very
Because it's,
grateful.
yeah, it's fucking
Art-
hard to.
It is
It's
hard.
hard.
And I'm so grateful that like I went back to my inner child, and that's essentially like what I've been doing over the last couple of years, and that's an important topic right there to also like touch upon is
Yeah.
like getting back into your inner child. Like how do you find your passion? How do you find what you love to do? How do you figure out what do you want to do for the rest of your life? You have to go back to your inner child. That's step one, because we knew what we were doing when we were little. We knew what it is that we liked, who we were, how we interacted with people, if we liked to talk to people or not. Like like us, our
Yeah,
inner
our child is the purest form of
the
ourselves. And
purest form. Yes.
who we become as society's conditioning, our parents, like you said, projecting onto you. And it's really hard to break out of that. What was that conversation like when you realized, like, okay, I need to sit down and tell my parents, like, mom and dad, like, this is what I love. This is what I need to do. What was that conversation like?
There was really no conversation. My parents have been always very passive aggressive. So we've never been the type of family to like sit down and have a discussion and be like, oh, you guys, this is what's going on as a family. Or like, it's that's kind of a sore topic for me because I don't have a super great relationship, honestly, with my parents, like a very close one, at all. So, I just kind of did it. They were just like, angry with me, like, "Ugh, quit that job." And I was just like, no, no, no. What are you gonna do? Like, at that point, also, they don't pay my bills. They didn't pay for anything of my life, and they hadn't been for years. It was only like that I was living with them that was their only like form of control. And that's also why I decided to move out eventually, because I was like, okay, like I just really don't. I'm not vibing with it. So, that was really the only ammo that they had, and that at the end of the day, like that's not really enough either, because it's like,
Yeah.
what do like what are you doing? Like, what are you giving me? Or, in a sense, you know, that we didn't have family dinners together. We didn't, I would have to figure out my own day, like what I was gonna eat. Like I didn't have somebody taking care of, like they were not, love them, love my parents and everything.
Oh, did
They
you see
weren't.
my TikTok yesterday?
No, I didn't.
Okay, I have to send it to you. Aside, it's the Lightning McQueen one for anyone who's listening. It's the like I posted. It's like whenever I need help with schoolwork, whenever even now as a business owner, they help me with my finances and taxes, and it's like my immigrant, like the Lightning McQueen, like biggest cheerleader. It's like my immigrant parents who had no idea what they were doing either, but they still went above and beyond to help me. And in the caption, I put, I may talk a lot of shit about them, how they weren't there for me emotionally, but I I lucked out with parents who really gave a shit about me, because
Mm,
I know that that's rare, like,
yeah.
especially being Hispanic, like, they'll give you the world, you can live at home until you're married and 35 and have your own kids and have your own house, whatever, but, like, they're putting all their pressure on you, and it's
Yeah.
really hard to, like, go off on your own and stand up to them, or, like, even what you did, like, I don't argue it's even worse, like, that way, just, like, having you realizing, like, "Okay, we're not gonna have a relationship because you can't see what I want, and that's
Yeah.
unfair to me." And I had to have that conversation with my parents a couple months ago, and it was the scariest thing I've ever done, but it's also the most rewarding thing I've ever done, realizing, like, you know what? Yeah, everyone may think I'm crazy, but so what? If I need to go back to have an office job, I can do that. But, like,
Right. Exactly.
right now, while I'm young and I have the freedom to do it, I'm gonna go my own path and figure it out. And if I'm like you, if
Exactly.
I want something, I will get obsessed. I will learn everything I need to know. I will figure it out as I go, and I will make it happen. And I was always like that as a kid. I was always very resilient, very independent, and now I'm learning that I need to be less independent because I'm not going to meet people that way if I'm so defensive all the time, friendship, relationships, whatever. But yeah, I think,
I'm kind of going through that same phase right now where it's like, okay, great, my independence got me to where I am right now. But now it's time to kind of backtrack and understand that independence is not everything. And if I try to become too independent, I'll just end up becoming alone and depressed. And at
yeah,
the end of the day, what is success if you're not surrounded by anybody?
yeah,
So
it's that saying, like, if you want to go far, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Like, you need
mhm,
people to support you. And it goes back to the inner child thing too, like healing that inner child that had no one to play with, that didn't speak English, had to figure it all out for themselves. Like, saying, like, it's okay, like, you're gonna be fine. Like, you don't need to be alone all the time. You don't need to eat lunch by yourself or play in the sandbox by yourself. Like, go ask someone if they want to eat lunch with you. Like, they're
mhm.
probably gonna say yes, but you have to be willing to give it a shot. And it's going back and healing that inner child and taking having the balls to go make new friends and new relationships and try something new until you find something that does stick.
Yeah, 100%. Having the balls, or at one point in your life just having the basically desperation to get there, because it's like, if I don't do something, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. Like it becomes too much. So, yeah. Yeah, I just kind of kept going there, and then after a year of working in that tour company, I I I had decided, like, okay, I'm gonna like quit, because I had saved up like a good amount of money to pay for my next semester of school, and then I had also just been awarded a scholarship, so it was like, okay, great, like I'm gonna be in a good place financially, and I'll be able to like pay for school and pay for all of my bills and everything, like without having to work. And I was telling one of my colleagues at the school that I worked at night. I was telling one of my colleagues, I was like, yeah, in like about 2 weeks or so, like I'm gonna quit. I'm very excited for it. Like I think I need to take a little bit of a break and just focus on school. And she was like, oh, send me your resume. Actually, like we're looking for someone at our tour company. And I was like, okay. And I sent her my resume, and then I got hired. And I was like, well, there goes that unemployment I was looking for. But then that ended up being like
You're
the
like me.
best.
I don't know how to not have 500 jobs at once.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, "Oh, a job, or oh, an opportunity, a gig? Yes, 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 let's do it." I say, but that's important too, is saying yes to as many opportunities as possible, because you never know which one's gonna hit. And this tour company was they are called Miami Tour Company, and I worked there for 3 years, loved it so much. Became best friends with one of my colleagues. I'm one of her bridesmaids, and she's getting married at the end of this month. Like,
That's awesome.
me and the owners of the company were very close. It was an amazing company to work for. They paid us very well. So it was a big switch from like this company that was paying us fucking pennies and for no reason at all, to now a company that was actually paying us fair, paying everyone in, a fair wage. And we were all so happy. All the employees were there. Their turnover was incredibly low. And in those 3 years, like I got to work with one crew, so that helped me refine two skills, because I didn't work as a tour guide solely as a tour guide for them. I actually worked in the office for them. So it was like at administrative work, sales work. And since I had that background of being a tour guide, then they also had that added advantage of, hey, do of having me go and do their tours. So about once or twice a week, I would go, and I wouldn't be in the office. I would go off and I would go do a tour. So it was a really nice hybrid schedule, and it was my favorite. And
That's
I would
good because you get like the balance of both, and you get to refine what
yes,
you're studying in school. If you do
yes.
choose to go that route and not end up pursuing what we all know you ended up doing, or and then also like refining the skills, which is the fun part of the job, but it's practical. It was a good, yeah, a good
It was
balance
a
of both.
great mix. It definitely was, because having routine also helps out. I mean, I was still going to school full time, and at this point, I wasn't in Miami-Dade College. Now I was at FIU, so things were a little bit more intensified. I wanted to join extracurriculars. I joined the Sales Society. I joined the International Business Honor Society. So I was like, it was good to have a more stable routine. And also, what I loved about that job too, like an added benefit, is that our bosses actually paid for our membership at Orange Theory Fitness. So I it was great, because there was an Orange Theory right next to our office. I would go really early on in the morning, and then we had a shower at our job. So I had like this great schedule, and it helped me develop some really good habits that I still take into this
Yeah,
day,
that's awesome.
working out and having a really dedicated workout routine, and taking workout classes. And I did Orange Theory for like 3 years, and I loved it. So that, not like, I can't thank Miami Tour Company, Michelle and Gus, enough for literally changing my life. Like, and they inspire me to be the kind of boss that I want to be in the future, that
Yeah.
genuinely cares about their employees, in a sense of like, I want you to pay you well, and then I also want you to be healthy, and I want you to be happy, and I want to be your friend. And it was like, I got so lucky. I can't believe that I had
Yeah.
bosses like that. That's a rare, rare, rare thing. And it was especially great because Michelle, the one of the owner, it was a husband and wife duo, Michelle and Gus. Michelle kind of became like that mom figure that I really, really needed. And I was going through some really difficult times in those times, especially with my family. So she also became that mother figure, and I was able to talk to her, and that just, it completely changed my life 100%. And it was amazing. And I'm so, honestly, it's devastating that COVID happened, because they really downsized and they sold all their buses, and now they still are in business, but it's a much smaller scale, and I still work with them. So, it's nice. I still get to work with them, but I do miss having that group of that crew, that same crew, coworkers, the same people, because now as a freelancer and as an entrepreneur, you mostly interact with, strangers on the daily, and that can get a little tiring at times, because you're like, I just want to like have a recurring conversation with someone, like to backtrack on something that we talked about last week, and not like new conversations all the time. So yeah, that was the second era. of my tour guide journey. So the first era was like 2 jobs in South Beach, bike tour guide, activity leader, working my ass off. Like it was a struggle. I had gotten towed while I was working in South, like actually when I first started working in South Beach, 2 weeks into the job, I got my first paycheck. Get this, after 2 weeks of work, I was there like 4 or 5 times a week. My paycheck was $310. I couldn't believe it. 2 weeks of work, and my car got towed. And to get your
That's
car
as
back from
much as
Miami
it costs,
Beach,
yeah.
it cost they reduced it like $40 for me because I was crying. I was begging. I was just like this like they could see the heartbreak in my eyes because I had to hand over my entire paycheck to get my freaking car back. And
Yeah.
I mean, that just goes to show you how much I loved being a tour guide because it was 2 weeks into the job. Like, I think anybody else would have been like, "Screw this, I'm gonna go do something else." Like, I didn't make any
Yeah.
money, and then my car got towed. The employers, they don't care about it. They don't care that my car got towed. They're not helping me pay for it. They're not giving me free parking. They're not helping me pay for parking. They're paying me $8, no, $10 an hour. It was horrible, but I the job for me was what was so good, and that's what kept me going. So that was phase 1. And then phase 2 was Miami Tour Company for about 3 years. And then the pandemic hit. And it was a perfect storm of events for me because the pandemic hit right after I had graduated from FIU. So I had graduated December of 2019. And so at that point, I was also thinking about like, okay, like I'm about to graduate from university. Like it's time to think about my next step in life. I can't be a tour guide forever. Ironically enough, that was my thought. I was like, I can't be a tour guide forever. I need to go find a big girl job. Like, I need to start thinking about it. And then the pandemic hit, and obviously I got laid off. So I was like, well, I guess that was kind of like the kickstart into doing that, into like getting into my next phase of life. And then at that point is when I started creating content. So then we're now getting into like phase 3 of my life right now, or like at least this part of my tour guide life right now, where I've maximized my knowledge, and now I'm not just bringing it to the tourists that come here, but also to the locals, and expanding that and turning that into a whole other stream of income that has brought me so many different opportunities, so much fun, so much life, so many new friends. Now it's bringing more creative friends in my sphere of life. I met you through Instagram, and I've met so many people that are similar to me. So it's been such a big blessing to do so. So yes, some people think that I started Caro the Tour Guide, like that was a persona that I started, but like no, like I started that page back in 2017. I didn't start it in 2020. In 2020 is just when I started posting Miami Mondays, when I created that series and started posting consistent weekly content. And from that, it started to grow. But I had that page since 2017. And
Yeah.
I've been a
That's
tour guide
really
since
cool.
2020.
That's a really cool story too, because it just goes to show like you found your calling, but it wasn't exactly like the perfect iteration. It didn't just happen. It wasn't overnight success. You still had to put in a lot of work and you have to figure it out. You still have to figure out like, what is this really going to look like? How do I make this work for me? And you gave it a real opportunity, and like the pandemic being the perfect storm, like that was exactly what it was for me. Like the pandemic happening while I was in law school was truly the greatest thing that ever happened to me. And I had like how you had Michelle being like your mom figure. Like I had a professor, two different professors. One was male, one was a female. So like they were like my parents at school. And whenever like if I to this day, if I got into a car accident or something, like I know I could call them. And like if they can't come running, like they will find someone who can, and they will be there for me no matter what. And like having those people that truly they see something in you and they want to help you achieve your goals no matter what, even if they can't be the ones to make it happen for you, they'll allow you or help you get the resources for yourself to do it. Like that is so important. And I love that now through social media, we have the opportunity to do that, and you get to meet people and you never know where those connections are going to take you. You never know what's the worst that could happen. You just put yourself out there and like it could lead to so many different things. And like you had no idea that getting that job off Craigslist was going to lead to where you are now. I had no
No.
idea that starting a blog in college was going to lead me to wanting to pursue a career in social media and as a lawyer and figure out how to combine the two. And like, here I am. And, I think that's really cool that it all worked out. It's also a testament to that it all works out exactly the way that it's supposed to, even if it doesn't seem like it's working out at all.
Mm,
That job was hard and it was stressful and it caused a lot of like struggles for you, but it also reaffirmed that you had found something that you wanted to pursue and you were going to figure
yeah.
out how to make it work.
It's a testament to yes, like everything works out the way it's supposed to, but also it was a testament to really honing in and listening to and respecting your gut,
Yes,
because
100%.
your intuition will never lie to you. And there was something in me since the day that I started, my intuition was telling me, stay here. And I had no idea what was going to culminate. I didn't question it. I didn't say, but what, but why, but why, but why, but what's going to be like? Tell me the answer right now. That because you'll piss the universe off. They'll be like, listen, you just need to do what I tell you to do and you don't question it. And we will reward you, but don't be like, it's like an annoying person that's like, that asks you a million, like an annoying friend that you're like, hey, you want to come hang out? And they're like, oh, but who's going to be there? And what are we going to do? And at what time are we leaving? And it's like, okay, you know what? You're not invited. Like, you are not a good vibe. You're freaking annoying. And that's kind of like how the universe will treat you in a way. So you have to like, from the moment that I started, I felt in my intuition, I said, no, no, no. There's something here. There's something telling me to stay and to stick with this. I don't know why. I'm not going to question why. I'm just going to continue doing it. I'm going to put my best foot forward. I'm going to say yes to every opportunity. I'm going to maximize everything that I do and go into every tour with full intentions. Like, really do my job and not just go through the motions of life, but really live my life intentionally, listening to my intuition. So if there was a piece of advice I could give to anybody, it would be that. Listen to your
100%.
intuition. Don't question it. Just do what your gut tells you to do, because there is and there's been science behind like the microbiomes in your stomach. It's directly linked to your nervous system and to your
Your
brain.
brain, yeah.
And there's just something there. I believe there's also something very spiritual in your gut microbiome as well. And I'm so grateful that I listened to my gut and that I didn't question her. And that's what, and who would have ever thought, like, my parents certainly never thought that me doing all of that and struggling being what I wanted to be would lead to what I have now. There
Oh,
was
100%.
there
No,
was no way to tell. There was no way to
no,
tell. We didn't know that
same.
social media was gonna
Oh,
take
I
off
had
like
no,
this.
my career didn't exist 3 years ago. Like, I
Exactly,
had no idea
exactly.
too. And I love that about your gut because I saw something a couple weeks ago and it said, if you can rationalize intuition, it's not intuition. And I have stuck to that since I saw it a couple weeks ago. Like, same thing. I knew, like, I don't know exact moment that I realized that I wanted to do both, but it was sometime mid pandemic. I was home from school, like doing like law school online, and I was starting to create content. And I was like, I love creating content, but I was like, but I'm also going to be a lawyer. Like, how do I combine the two? Like, what does that mean? Like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, how do I make this work? And I was like, wait, but like contracts, like that's it. I can do both. I can combine the two. And my professor, he asked me the question that changed my life. He said, what kind of lawyer do you want to be? What kind of clients do you want to have? And I said, I don't know what this looks like, but I would like to combine social media and law and like be a lawyer for influencers. And mind you, this was January 2021. This was 2 years
Right.
ago. Like, that did not exist.
No.
We had no idea, but I don't know, like, I don't know if it was in that exact moment, that question, or like I had already started kind of thinking about it, but like that moment when I was like, that's what I want to do. He was like, I don't know what that looks like, but I will figure it out and I will help you figure it out. I was like, okay, like I don't know what this is gonna look like. And it worked out. And I remember his partner, another professor of mine, the week of graduation, or the last week of finals, which was the week before graduation, I was getting ready for a final exam, and I was sitting outside by like this little like loft that we had, and I was like reviewing my outline one last time, and he walks by and he's like, "Oh, I was just about to email you, but since I ran into you, I was like, prom, make it quick. I got a final. Like let's go. Spit it out. Gotta go." And he was like, when you first said that you wanted to be a lawyer for influencers, mind you, this guy's like in his 60s. He was like, when I first heard that, I was genuinely really scared for you because I didn't want you to get your hopes up and then not be able to find a job. But like, you fucking did it. Like you made it to graduation. You figured out what you want to do. I'm fucking proud of you. And like, I was like, I'm literally gonna cry. Like, you can't do this to me right now. I have a final. I'm like, don't do this. But it was like that validation, unfortunately, was like, okay, like I can do this. I figured it out. And that was a year ago almost. That was like April. And like you never know where it's gonna take you. You just have to listen to it. You have to trust it and honor that. And it's really fucking hard and it's really fucking scary to do that and like not let anybody tell you anything or get in your way. But like,
And
I
to
think
not let people's fear, because everyone's going to project their
projection.
fears. Projection is the number one disease that we have in the spiritual realm of the world. Projection. You want to project your own fears, like, baby, keep that to yourself, because your insecurities are not my problem. Okay, if you think you can't do this, that's on you. I know that I can do this. So, just keep really trusting yourself that you can do it. And I also feel like intuition is I don't know, I don't really know how to explain it very well, but intuition
You
and
can't explain
gratitude
intuition. That's the
are
thing.
they're really interconnected. Like
Yes.
gratitude and intuition are connected, because I think that whatever you are grateful for, and this is why I do gratitude every morning. I say what I'm grateful for every single day, because I think that sends a message. Gratitude is actually the only way to send a message to your past self, and that is your intuition. Like that's my theory.
No, I kind of like that. I don't know exactly. To me, when you were saying that, I was thinking like lucky girl syndrome or abundance. Like that's kind of
Mhm.
like the law of attraction.
Yes,
But
true.
no, I think you're onto something there. That's definitely like something to think more about. And I like that you do it in the morning. I do it at night, where right when I go to bed, like right as I'm, whatever, I'm reading a book, I turn off the TV. I have like my little like lip balm. I put my eye mask on, and I hug myself and I say, I'm so proud of you and I love you and I'm so proud of how far you've come. And like, look at everything you achieved. Like, you had no idea that you were capable of this, and I'm so proud of you. Like, for getting yourself to where you are today.
And
And
I love that you physically hug yourself.
yeah,
That's so important.
because some like it's funny. I crave affection, but I actually hate being touched. So I don't know how to like. I have to be in the mood for someone to touch me, but like, I want to feel affection. Like, that's one of my love languages. It's bizarre. Anyway, that's the point. But like, I was realizing like sometimes, most of the time, all I fucking need is a hug. But I don't have anyone to give me a hug. I can't just go up to my parents and be like, "Can you give me a hug?" Like, it's weird. Like,
Yeah.
my mom would be like, "Are you gonna bite my head off?" And I'm like, "Probably." So she's like, "I'm not hugging you." I'm like, "But just give me." She's like, "Nope." My dad will, but like my mom will not. And I'm like, sometimes all I just want is my mom to hug me and hold me while I cry. That will never in a million years happen. So
Yeah.
I realized that like, if I wanted it, I had to give it to myself. So I
Yeah.
started hugging myself at night, and like, just like that, like that's like when I finally calmed down. Like, you know what? Everything's gonna be fine. Tomorrow is another day. Like, you made it through today, no matter how bad today was. Like, you still showed up, and like you made it work, and like you've come this far. Like, this is gonna be nothing. And
Yeah, the
like,
way I see it, it's like you're hugging your inner child. You're like,
you are.
feeling
You're healing
safer and
yourself.
secure.
And because no one can do that for you, you have to do it for yourself.
Yes.
And it's, you know, I think you're on something though. Like, it's that putting that out there in the world, it's you're telling the universe like, I am open, I am receptive to whatever you have to bring me. And you're allowing those opportunities in. And like, if you are not open to them and you are not grateful for where you are right now, you're going to miss it. You're going to miss those opportunities that come your way and can change your life. And I think it's that, and then having the intuition to be like, okay, like, this is either good or bad. and like figuring out, like, I used to say, like, I get vibes from people. Like, I can't tell you like exactly why I don't like somebody. I'm not that good of a judge of
Mhm.
character, but like I would say, like, I get vibes from people. Like, I just know like if something is off with them.
Oh yeah, frequencies are
And
so real.
and like I didn't never understood what that was. And then I realized, like, through these like multiple like trials throughout law school, like I realized, like, I'm an intuition person. I need to honor it. And my professor a month ago, him and I spoke, and I hadn't seen him since graduation. I hadn't really had a chance to talk to him. And he was like, I'm so fucking proud of you because you trusted your intuition and look at where it has led you. Like, most lawyers don't listen to it. And like, that's why they have all the problems that they have. Like,
Yeah.
that's rare, like, that you have the balls to listen to your intuition. I'm so fucking proud of you. And for him to say that to me, I was like, everyone thought I was crazy. He was like, you are crazy, but that's your gift. Like, you are, and I love you for it. Like, I really
Oh
don't know
yeah.
how you do everything that you do, but you've always had it in you. Like, there was no doubt in my mind that you were going to be successful. You just didn't know yet what you were going to be capable of, but you trusted your intuition, and look at where you are. You started your own firm, you're figuring it out, all of these things. Like, you're killing it. Like, I don't, like, there's nothing left for me to do. Like, you're on, like, you're good. And I was like, no, like, I need you. I need you in my life. Like, please don't go anywhere. He's like, no, I'm not going anywhere. But it's cool. Like, I think and then when you are open to it, you attract those people that are going to support you and uplift you no matter what, you know? And we build that village, our community, for ourselves. It doesn't have to be our family. It doesn't have to be our, our parents, our childhood friends. It could be like whoever you want to be and whoever wants to be there for you. And I think, yeah, you have to be open to it. So I think you're onto something.
I really think so as well because I've tested it in theory as well where I'm like, okay, sometimes if I'm in a crossroads between deciding to do something or not, I say, okay, I'm gonna do it, and then I'm gonna, or and then I'm going to see how I feel at the end of doing this. Will I be grateful or will I be, okay, that was good. And if I am grateful for it, then I physically will say like, "Oh, I'm so grateful that I ended up doing that." And many times whenever I've been at that crossroads and I don't know if whether to do it or not, it's usually my intuition that's telling me do it or no, don't do it. And whenever I do it, it leads to gratitude. So I think there is a connection there, and you need to use gratitude as a power, as a messaging system to yourself, to your past self, to let yourself know this is what you need to be doing. So I really genuinely believe that it's what I one of the theories that I live on, and I think it's really really powerful. So yeah, it's yeah.
No, that's really cool. So now in this new phase of life, like, you've been doing Miami Mondays for a few years, you have built an entire additional business, and it, like, not just a tour guide, and not just now a tour guide for locals, but also creating content with brands and partnerships and showing off your skills in Miami in a whole new light. Like, what where did that come from? Like, where did Miami Mondays come from? How did you, like, you had the time and you started creating content because you couldn't do it on tours anymore during the pandemic, but now that the world has kind of opened back up and like you could have gone back to, like, what made you stick with it? Like, what made you realize, like, okay, like, there's something here, let me continue pursuing this? And how did it all start becoming like content
Yeah.
creator about this? Like, how did that all come about?
That great question. Yeah. So I didn't go into it with like the goal of becoming an influencer, with the goal of becoming a content creator. It wasn't like, okay, I want to be, rich and famous. So I'm gonna do this. It was more like, whoo, I'm so used to always being busy. And then all of a sudden, I'm in this pandemic and I'm just sitting around like, okay, this is fun. It was fun for like 2 or 3 weeks of like, yeah, I'm lounging around. I'm not doing anything. I have unemployment. I'm being taken care of. And then it was like, what am I going to do? I'm like, okay, I can't just sit here all day. Obviously, this, because in the beginning too, we also thought it was going to be like a 2, 3 week thing. And then we were going to get back to our jobs.
Yeah.
So we were like chilling. But then, as time started to go by, we realized, and I realized that this is not going to be some short 2-3 week thing. It's going to be months long affair. So I just thought, like, okay, like, let me do something with my time. I've always been a creative person, like, like we talked about, like, I've always been a creative girl. So I had the time, I had resources, I didn't have to worry about my bills. So I thought, okay, what information do I know? Like, what can I do with my time? And what had at that point, what had I been doing for the past 4 years was learning about Miami's history really in depth. So I was like, okay, great, we're all stuck at home, may as well, like, kind of show people around, or like be like, help people travel in a way, like virtual travel in a way. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna do Miami Mondays, and it'll be a short video so that I can have, a lot of a lot, like, I won't run through it really quickly. Like, I'll do one landmark a week. It'll be a short video. It'll be digestible. It'll be entertaining. It'll be informative, and that's it. And I had that idea on a Sunday, and the very next day was Monday, and I got on my bike. I rode to Miami City Hall. At first, all my Miami Mondays were like on bike or on skate, because, like, since the pandemic, there were no cars around, so it was like a lot of fun to go out and bike around and skate around, and it was easy to do that, and it wasn't like scary and unsafe like how it is now, unfortunately, back to the way it was. So I would like that was also one of my themes, was like I was biking and skating around to show you Miami's history. So the very next day, I jump on my bike to Miami City Hall. I do it selfie style. I had written a little script. No, I didn't write a script at that point. At that point, I just did it verbatim. Now I do it more curated so that I can go with it's a nicer flow of a storyline. But at first, it was just at verbatim, and it was and yeah, and so I did that selfie style right in front of Miami City Hall. I got home, I downloaded the first editing program that I could find and paid for that licensing software. I edited the video and released it right away. And then that's just how I started, like, one day to the next, and then I was like, okay, and then the next week, same thing, and I just kept putting out content, and it really started to grow. Like, people really were watching, and they were very entertained. I mean, everybody was at home not doing anything, so that also helped me get a following, because it was a lot easier to retain people's attentions at that time.
Yeah.
I feel like if I were to have started now,
No.
it would be incredibly difficult. Like, now I already have the people's attention, so it's like I just have to keep the momentum going. But back in 2020, in the pandemic, like, people were begging for something to watch, like they needed something to do, so it was easy. So that helped a lot too, with like keeping that momentum of like, okay, I'm not just creating content and getting 2 likes. Like, I was getting 3, 4, 500 likes on my videos. People were sharing it. It was growing. My friends were very appreciative of it, and I just kept it going because people were very appreciative of it. They were very grateful for it. They would send me messages like, I didn't know this, I didn't know that, thank you so much for teaching me. And it was like that. I mean, like I had said before, I love being of service to people, so this is like a service to people as well. Sometimes I can, sometimes maybe a company would sponsor my Miami Mondays, but I don't make money off of Miami Mondays. It's purely educational. It's purely for the service of and the love of Miami, and to educate our locals. And so that's why I kept it going, just because of the character of myself, that I love to be of service to people. And 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 yeah, I'm only going to continue to scale it. Like, there are plans to continue to build it and make it even better, and there's so much to talk about. I do not find myself ever running out of topics. I have so many ideas in my brain. I don't think that will ever be a problem. So yeah, then, that's how I kept it going. Also, hopefully, this can lead to nationwide and international, opportunities as well. That's the goal for, like, a little
Yeah.
bit more in the distant future, and that's also why I hired you as a manager, because I want to go in that direction. Like, that's the direction I see myself going in, and eventually, I want us to negotiate contracts with tourism boards around the world. But when I feel ready for that, we'll get into that. But that's 100% a road that I'm kind of like starting to pave. We're starting
No, and
to.
that's important that you're forward thinking about it, but I think it's really cool to see how it really just came about naturally. Like this was your calling and it led you here. Like, what do you think Caro from 2016, 19-year-old Caro, like what would she say if she saw you now?
Oh, she would be so happy. So happy. She would be so proud of herself because, 2019 Caro was this, kind of, she was this little fat girl. I wasn't fat, but like I was a little husky because I didn't, I was working all the time, going to school all the time. So I didn't have like as dedicated of a gym routine that I do now. So I was just a little bit huskier, I would say, a little fluffier, so that's, one thing. I also didn't have a lot of friends. I was going through it at that moment, and a lot of my friends, since I went to like such a high caliber academic program, a lot of my friends moved away for college. So then boom, all my friends were gone. So I'm like, okay, like let me start making some other friends, but it was hard to like maintain friendships because I'm always so busy. So it was kind of a lonely road. And so like now where I'm in a place where I'm getting invited to all of these events, and I'm getting invited to really cool opportunities that I can come and bring my friends. And over the last year, I have used that to my advantage to like reinvigorate and reestablish a lot of my friendships. Like, hey, Kayla, I got
No,
invited to
you
go.
literally did this to me last week.
Exactly. I'm like, I will be using these events as opportunities to build friendships because I'm being given the opportunity to go be in these spaces. And who doesn't want to go to like a free dinner or a free, party like that, you're being taken care of, so I get to be like I like to say that I'm like my girlfriend's boyfriend, where, I take them, they don't have to worry about anything, we're not spending our money. I'm not making them spend money, and that also brings me joy because it's like we get to go out, have a really fun night out, and it's not to our detriment, essentially. So that is something that really I is my favorite part of being an influencer, is like being my girlfriend's boyfriend and being able to have these connections once again because I have the opportunity to do so. I also, grew up very low income. Like I had to work for everything that I ever wanted. My parents, unfortunately could not provide for me at all when it comes to like clothing, when it came to like paying my band fees, when it came to like paying for anything. I had to figure it out. So I was selling chocolate and brownies in middle school and high school, like to be able to like live. And so obviously like it's kind of, when it comes to like being that friend, like being the poor friend, it kind of sucks, because you can't do the things that your friends want to do. You can't like provide for your friends, and that kind of sucked. So being able to provide for my friends now is the best feeling ever. And I know that 2019 Caro would just be so happy because that's all I wanted. All I wanted was to be able to like provide for my friends and to like be that brings something to the table, because I never was a friend. I didn't have anything to bring to the table except myself. So I'm like, all right, let me try to be funny or something, like, or else I'm never gonna have any friends because whew,
Yeah.
I couldn't invite friends over and like have them over. Like my friends all kind of had money, and my parents were always kind of embarrassed. They didn't want me inviting friends over because we had a small apartment, so I never had friends over. And then I would go to my friends' houses, and they had like these big, nice houses with a pool, and we, like, it was just a very like it was really tough for me to like try to not be self-conscious about it. And I think I did a good job at like kind of getting over that, because it was like whatever, like yeah, they have money and I don't, but like, you know they like being my friend. I think people like me for me, so let's just continue. And I know that eventually in the future I'll be able to bring them something. And the friends that have stuck by me, I think that now they get to enjoy, and I'm eternally grateful for them for sticking by me, for being a good friend, for giving me rides, for paying for my movie tickets, and like being there for me, because I was in a rough spot when I was much younger, and now I'm in a like, this is just incredible for me. I am incredibly grateful every single day for everything that I have. And it's just, I know that 2019 Caro, I'm grateful for right now. So she's getting all these messages, and she's just getting all the messages like, just keep working hard. I know
Yeah.
you're depressed. I know that you're anxious. I know that you're sad, that you don't have friends, that you don't have a life, but just keep working hard, because this is going to happen.
Yeah. No, that's so beautiful. And I kind of love that we went there because yeah, like it's you're healing your inner child, but also like that's why you have the joy and it's so infectious because you are genuinely so grateful and it shows. And that's why people gravitate towards you. And that's why the tour guide persona is so fun to watch. And like me as a local, like I had like same, like I grew up in Miami. I'm like, there's like I know there's history here, obviously, but like okay, like whatever. Like I see it, I'm like Coral Gables is an old neighborhood. It's beautiful, but like I love the old houses, but like I didn't know the history behind them. You know, I knew Mary Brickell Village like was named after Mary Brickell, presumably, but like who the hell is that? I had no idea. You know,
Right.
like why is we're in a very Hispanic city. Why is it named Brickell? Like, and then you say it in Spanish and it's like Brickell. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But then seeing like, you know, but I had never thought about it. You know, you think of like let's go on a trip. I'm like, let's see what are all the touristy things to do in like New York or in Dallas or Nashville or whatever. Never thought my own city. And then I don't know what video I came across of yours first, but then I found you and I was like, wait, like I want to go on a tour. Like I want to see Miami. Like I joke like being a tourist in my own city, like but like I actually like need to be a tourist in my own city because I don't know much about this city. And, like,
Mhm.
I'm always saying, like, people need to see the real Miami, but I don't even know the real Miami truly because I don't know the history behind it and what makes Miami truly what it is and how magical it is. So, it's really cool, like, that you bring that interest every single video, every single day, like, and it's infectious and, like, that's why people gravitate towards you, and it's really cool to see and, like, hear your story of, like, how what it took to get you there because that's not something to take lightly at all. And I think it's a great reminder for people like if right now you're not where you want to be, like who's to say you won't be in a year, in 2 years, in 3 and 5? You never know. But like you just have to keep looking for if you know you're not happy, try different things. Put yourself out there. You never know what opportunities will come your way and you never know what you will find your calling. And if you want it badly enough, like it'll, you know, and if you put in the effort and you're grateful for where you are, like things will happen for you. And I think, yeah, I truly like wouldn't be here today had I not gone through everything that I've gone through. Like, and you know, you can say the same. Like, it sucks. Like looking back, like having to heal your inner child in a way does suck that we have to do that
Yeah.
work. But it's
Yeah.
also like really cool to be able to do that and look back and like I'm proud of her and have them, your inner child, be proud of you too.
Yes. Yes. 100%. 100%. Been a journey. It's been
Yeah.
quite a really interesting journey, but couldn't be more grateful for it. I'm looking forward to the future because I know that this is not it. There's so many ideas that I have to scale, to improve, and like the fact that I still have all of this energy and momentum is only leading me to believe that this is only the beginning, baby. There is a
Yeah.
lot coming. There's something. My intuition, she's telling me something.
Oh, same. I don't know if I told you this the other night, but I have like this weird like intuition. And I say weird because I can't tell what it is yet. Like it's not I don't know yet if it's good or bad. I just have like a feeling that summer, like August, September, like that like I know the closer we get to that, the more I'm like, okay, like I want to know like what is happening. Like, can you tell me, give me a hint? Like but
Mhm.
yeah, I know that this is only the beginning for me too. There's so many ideas and it's also really cool to be able to surround yourself with people who are also in
Yeah.
that same phase, like in alignment. Like that's such a overused word now, but it's so true. And like I want those people in my life that are going after what they want and are not willing to compromise and settle because those are the people that are going to see me doing the same thing and support me and like we're going to do it together.
Yes.
And I need those people in my life. Like I'm done with the people that and like I was listening to Bendiciones by Bad Bunny on the car. That song is such a vibe. If you haven't heard it or go translate the lyrics, it's but like he says, like I'm letting go of the envious people. Like I don't need them anymore. Like I'm so grateful and I'm blessed. Like I don't like who cares what they say? Like I'm moving forward anyway. Like I'm leaving them in the dust. And I'm like, that's what it is. Like I'm letting go of like because the only people who bring me down are them. Like and me letting them affect me. And that's not really what I think. I know that I have potential. I know that I can go so much farther. And it's really like cool to meet people who are also doing that. And I can't wait to see like where things go for you because I think it is really cool what you're doing. And it's unique. And I think more and more people are going to start doing something similar. And I think the course or like a guide or whatever you come up with, I think would be really cool too, because Miami is such an underrated city. Like people are starting to realize that there's so much more than just South
Yes.
Beach and like fancy cars and, you know,
No, we don't
ultra.
even want to get
Oh,
into
no, I know
we don't
that's a
want to
whole
get into that
nother.
topic, but I will go into it. Like
No,
it
that's
is
a whole nother
such an
episode.
underrated. That's for another episode
That's for
because
another episode.
100%.
But I think I'm just starting to really tap into it, and I'm like, I genuinely like want to be a tourist in my city and like see all there is to do. So I think you're onto something for real, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. You already gave one piece of advice, but for anyone who is struggling to figure out what they want to do with their life, like, because
Oh
you and I
yeah.
have both been there, like, what's your biggest piece of advice for them?
That's yeah. I definitely have some advice for that. And before I get into that, I'm going to say that big things are coming for us because I think that this partnership is going to there's something here
Yeah.
and you know, one of my maybe this is also a piece of advice is actually okay, so a couple months ago I got invited to be a panelist in this discussion about, you know, young entrepreneurs, and the panel moderator, she asked me what was my biggest weakness, and honestly I was kind of struggling to figure that out, like not because I'm like, "Oh, I'm perfect," but
No,
also
but
I'm
it's hard to dig deep and like admit that you
like,
have a
what's my biggest
weakness.
weakness? I don't know. I try my best to really not have a weakness. But then she ended up pointing it out to me. She's like, "Look, I invited you on this panel because, you know, I think you're amazing and you're doing great things. But I also see that you're the only one, and you film, edit, record, produce.
You can't do it all. Yeah.
You do it all." She's like, "Do you think that's your biggest weakness?" And girl, once she I haven't stopped thinking about that. I was like, "Wow, she just hit me like a freight truck." And I realized that is my biggest weakness is that I love to be that independent person and or I
Oh,
loved
wait,
because
wait. We need to
I
talk about
let
this
her go.
offline because same. This
Yeah.
happened to me yesterday.
Ooh, yeah. So that is something that has been in my mind for a long time, and I've started to bring in a lot more people. So I have friends that help me film now, several people that help me do certain things. And I've started reaching out and branching out and outsourcing some of my work. And then that's also where our partnership has come in, where I'm like, you're the first person really that is part of like this kind of crew, and one of the first people that's gonna I don't know actually, what am I trying to say with that? Like, you're just this is one of my biggest outreaches so far, and I think that's a big deal, and it's gonna have some really great rewards with it. So yeah, I just wanted to say that really quickly
No,
before
I
I
think like no, I think that's a really great point. And to like add to that before you get to the advice, like I think recognizing that you have a weakness and you need help and making that first step is like the greatest gift you can give yourself. And that's why when you came to me, I was like, yes, I jumped on it because I was like, I don't know how she does it all, but like I want to be a part of that. But I'm also very similar too, and I need the help. I'm at the point where I need people in my and the realization I had yesterday is I want before it used to be I need and I was expecting people to just come and take off things from my plate and like it would magically all work out. And like I need to have this before I can get this, blah blah blah. No, like I want the help. I want people to come and be a part of my life. I don't want to do it all on my own. I guess I can. I shouldn't have to. And I realize I don't want to. But it
no,
has to be the right kinds of people. And I was
exactly.
realizing it mostly in the more romantic setting of like, I realized like, because I went to the Jay Shetty show, like this total side note, and last night, and he asked a question, which actually good one for you to think about and answer like to yourself later. He said, what is something that you value that you aren't prioritizing right now? And you have to like meditate on it. And I was like, romance, like love. Like I've been saying I want it, but I was saying I couldn't have it until certain things were happening. And I was like, the only person I'm hurting is me because I'm denying myself something that I want. Like I emotionally, like I cannot heal my inner child, build a business, and like, you know, I can't give myself everything. You can do everything, but you can't do it all at once. And you can't like, I can't. I'm only one person. I'm only one human. And like, I have so much to give and so much love to give and so much I want to do with my time and my life, but like I can't do it alone. And I don't want to have to do it alone. And I realized like the wanting it is the biggest thing. Like I kept saying I want love, but I wasn't allowing myself to actually like really want it and have it and touch it, like it be tangible. And I realized and I said, I'm like, okay, I want that. I do
Yep,
want that.
yep.
And now I don't know what that means. I don't know where we go from here, but like I think yeah, you reaching out to me, like having just that realization and making that first I think even just acknowledging it, not even making the first step, but the acknowledgement of it alone is like light bulb moment. Like that's a really important. So
It was,
definitely
and it wasn't something that I acknowledged myself, so I have to thank Andrea for that. Like, thank you for calling me out on it and like really making me realize it. And that just, that's why I love when people, constructive criticism is very important, and you should not take anything personally, because most of the time people just want the best for you. And I have to thank her for that, for pointing that out for me, because then it really got my wheels churning. And now it started to lead me down a different path where it's like, okay, like your independent girl journey is done, all right, because you cannot, that's not sustainable, it's not viable. Who wants to be in a mansion all by themselves? No, 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 you need community in order to grow and to scale. It's just literally impossible to grow if you don't have people around you. So it was
100%.
like, that was like that moment where it was like, your independent girl journey done, girl. You need to go and actively and prioritize asking people for help, asking people, intentionally hanging out with people, and just being very intentional with your relationship. So a piece of advice for people that are trying to figure out what it is that they want to do in their life, because that's what specifically what you asked about. So when I was unsure about what exactly is my passion, because people tell you just follow your passion, just follow your dreams. It's like, okay, but what are my dreams? What is my passion? And so I literally took it to YouTube and went to like TED Talks, and I listened to a bunch of TED Talks and listened to a bunch of YouTube videos. And I think that my biggest piece of advice was just literally go watch some YouTube videos and some TED Talks,
Find
because
what
they're
interests you. Yeah.
hard. Oh yeah, and like, well, not. I was just typing in like, how do you find your passion, and that was what I started with. And I started watching a lot of videos like that of psychologists and professionals, and wiser, older people that were giving their tidbits of life. That's how I started to like try to figure out, because I was like, I don't know what my passion is. So I started watching these videos and I was like, okay, all right, that makes sense. That makes sense. And it helped me kind of figure out exactly what it was. And it helped me go back to my inner child. So just like how we were discussing in the beginning of this episode, how our truest, purest self is our inner child, you need to go back to that. You need to go listen to that inner child. That's how you're going to find your passion. But you need to very intentionally go and look for that. It's not going to come to you. You're not going to dream up your passion. You're not going to magically pick up a paintbrush and all of a sudden you're an artist. It's not going to happen like that. You have to intentionally do it. And that is also a skill to work on. Everything is learnable. Everything is figure outable. Some people might have some more natural inclinations, but at the end of the day, everything can be learned. And everything it can only really be learned. We don't just naturally have talents and naturally that's just not the way that the cookie crumbles. That's just not the way. You are the one that has to create your life. So go and create it. Go and do it.
I love that. I think that's such a great place to end. Cause yeah, one of the things I've been saying a lot is I wanted to create the life of my dreams. I wanted to build my life. I knew that the life that I wanted didn't exist and I was gonna have to go out there and make it. And looking back, I started saying that like a year and a half ago. And now I'm like, no matter how difficult it is, like, and even my friends, like without them knowing that that is something that I've been telling myself, like my friends would be like, I'm so, like my friends who are so unhappy in their jobs, like I'm envious of you that you had the balls to go out and build your life. Like you don't have anyone to answer to. Like you did it. You figured it out. Like you did it all for yourself. Like that is something that you should be so proud of. Like no matter how hard it is, like you had the balls to do it. Like I'm jealous. I wish I had the balls. And I'm like, okay, like that's my superpower that I was willing to figure it out and like build it no matter what. And I think That's such a great place to end because, yeah, like you have to trial and error and like go back to like you as a child, your purest version of you. They'll be able to guide you and
Yeah.
like you just piece it all together. Like your life is a roadmap. Like everything happens for a reason. You just have to go back and like put the pieces together and then it'll all work out exactly the way it's supposed to.
I hope more people do try to do that because I think we need more individualism in this world, and we can't have there's too many cookie cutter people, too much cookie cutter out there. And honestly thankful to the pandemic because the pandemic spurred a lot of, like, I'm not the only one. I've met so many incredible businesses and entrepreneurs, like Compost for Life, just to give one example. He started that business during the pandemic because also, he was in the corporate world for 13 years, and then the pandemic showed them, like, it's so easy for these jobs to kind of throw you out, and you're unhappy, and you're like, you know what, let me do something that I truly am happy about. And his passion was the environment, so he started a composting service, and now it's grown to such a big thing. So that's like one of the examples, and I have just ran into so many people that are doing
It
amazing.
gave us the time to really think and to work on ourselves and like to actually do all the healing that we've been saying for so long we needed to do.
Yeah, that we
It
didn't have.
allowed us the time to do it, I think. And yeah, I'm same thing. The pandemic truly changed my life. I mean, it changed everybody's lives, but I think for me in the best way possible, for you, for him, there is
Yeah,
so many more people. And I think there's only going to be more because we're talking about it and we're willing to have these conversations and give people more tools and that and inspire them. And that it's not going to be easy, but it'll be worth it.
yeah.
And
And
you just
we are
have
like
to.
success stories for them to be able to, like, because back before it was like, oh, what's the inspiration, where is the success story that I can look up to? Now there are so many success stories to look up
And
to.
also, I think you should also look up to like not just success, but the failures too. Like Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, she says her dad would always ask her, "How did you fail today?" when she came home from school. Now, how was school today? How did you fail today? Because he wanted her and her siblings to learn from the failure and figure it out and like fail forward.
Yeah.
And like I think we can learn from the successes, but you could also learn from the failures.
Yes, yes, 100%.
I love this. We could keep going, but we really
We
shouldn't
could,
because
we
it's
could.
been here for a while.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. We don't
where
want to
can
make it too
every
long.
yeah, where can everybody find you if they want to reach out to you, if they want to go on a tour, if they're visiting Miami, if they're local, like pimp yourself out. Where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Caro the Tour Guide. That's the best place to find me. I am on TikTok, but I'm way more active on Instagram. I post all about my tours on there, so you'll be updated on when things are going on. So just follow me on Instagram, and you'll know what's up.
Cool. I will link it in the show notes and we will talk to you next week.